you get more people's stories and you hear about it, you know that, it is something that's attainable for a common person.
All right, in this video, we're talking with Adam Silvis, who's from Pennsylvania, and he tells us how the average person can save up to buy their first piece of ground, misconceptions of first-time land buyers, and his personal biggest regret in regard to 125 acres he bought in Pennsylvania. Listen up. Here we go. You laid the foundation of a lot of really good decisions that you made. So someone listening right now, they need a piece of advice for buying their first piece of ground. What would you suggest to them? And if you have a couple tips you can give them.
Yeah, I mean, I'll start with I'm not a financial advisor, so
Disclaimer.
There. Yeah, disclaimer there. But I think starting with the consistent savings is key. There are no shortcuts, right? I'm sure if you played the crypto games or the meme stocks, maybe you can get rich overnight, but there are no shortcuts in life. So if you don't come from wealth, you've got to build it, right? You got to start small. And it's hard to think, wow, I'm going to need to save up $100,000, for example, if I want to buy a big property, or maybe less. Why even start? Because I'll never be able to get there. But just starting small and building on that. And I blend a bit of the Dave Ramsey model. I am not all about debt free entirely. If we're up to Dave Ramsey, he would tell you not to have a 2% mortgage on your house, but yeah. I mean, it's practically free money. So I wouldn't do that, but
8% inflation.
Exactly. So starting off, I think, and building the foundations. I will tell anybody listening to the podcast, max out your Roth IRA every year, and start as early as possible. So that is the number one thing. My wife and I have prioritized our retirements and those types of things. I know some people say land is the retirement. There's a balance there for me. I'm not putting all my eggs in land, but starting off foundationally in that steady savings. And really what our plan was, I think, initially was to get the down payment, put the down payment on a property, and then convert that monthly savings that we were doing into the actual payment every month, right? So just would be able to go off and run with it. And it's gotten to the point, as our maybe our incomes have increased over the years, we haven't done that, right? So we were able to put the money down on the property, and we're still now saving for the next one. Anytime you get an increase in your salary or you make a little bit of money at work, don't spend it, put it, take that increase and put it right into that savings, and just, it'll come faster than you think, right? In terms of, just saving to get that down payment. And so finances aside, another one I think is just, being patient and knowing that, the time will come, right? You got to have dry powder. And when the day arrives, you got to be ready to put that offer in.
Yeah, that's such a good point. Cause I think obviously some of those properties, a good property is likely not going to last very long, no matter, and that's just my opinion. I haven't seen as many market cycles as some of the guests, but I think a really great property is probably, a turnkey great property is going to sell fast in any market. Obviously it might be for a little bit less than from peak to a lower market, but regardless, the good stuff usually goes quick. And unless you have the skills and abilities and finances to take a crappy property, make it good. I mean, that's just a whole other can of worms as well, but that's just my 2 cents. But that's a great point. Be ready to rock when the time comes.
Yep. Be ready to rock. There's nothing like having dry powder.
Yeah.
And
I love that.
I'll tell you, it's, the market's going to change. I think you talk about that a lot on the podcast. The Fed wants the market to change, right? They're going to slow things
Very
down.
clear. Yep.
What I found on a couple other potential transactions that my wife and I have tried to do is there's a lot of cash buyers, right? They don't care about interest rates. They're cash buyers. I don't know where they got the cash, but they've got the cash. So they're probably going to be less affected. So I still think you have the buyers that are going to come in and buy up the right places. So I think another piece of advice is building a relationship with, bank or a lending, whatever route you go. I'm a big proponent of the ag credits. I'm not a farmer, but for the purposes of the ag credits, I'm now a farmer, and I'm classified as a farmer. I was looking at a property in Ohio a couple of weeks ago, and I called up, my loan officer at the ag credit, and she said, yeah, we look at that as expanding your farm. So we have no problem lending on that. Like, that's just having those relationships is very key.
It's huge. It can be the difference of having a successful purchase or not. I mean, that's how simple and important it is. I couldn't agree more. And I think as you get more into this wormhole, the better relationships you have and the more effective you are. And instead of going through this 7-page application, you can send them a text, say, hey, send them a link. Am I good? You're good. Okay. Well, that just takes care of everything, takes care of all the legwork, and it's just becoming more effective in the process. Cause I think that's the other thing too, is there's people that are making a full-time profession out of this. And so it just like anything, when you go up to someone that does it professionally and you're an amateur, and there's a reason why
Oh
there's
my,
professional sports and amateur sports. Like, which one are you? Obviously you're probably an amateur, but at least be on the high end of that if you can.
for sure. And I think buying off market, is important if possible. I write letters. I go to people and I sit down at their kitchen table every year. Say, if it ever leaves your family, let me know. I just keeping those relationships. If you're in an area that you want to buy, I think just because people's lives change, situations change. You never know when you're going to get the phone call that, hey, we're interested. Because if you're competing, I know you're in the real estate business, but if you're
Yes.
competing even with some of these realtors that are also investors, I know specific realtors that themselves bought dozens of properties, in the last couple of years. So you're not only competing with other buyers, you're maybe potentially competing with the realtors and the listing agents.
Some of those first point of contacts. Yeah, absolutely. What is a myth that you found to be completely false when you went through this entire process of like, well, I thought it was this.
It's not as big of a hurdle. It's not insurmountable. If you've never owned land, or you didn't come from maybe a family that's had a lot of land, it's a little easier than you think to get in the game. Once you've got your down payment, and it's just not as big of a deal as it seems. And really a credit to your podcast. I think you get more people's stories and you hear about it, that, it is something that's attainable for a common person.
Yeah. Cause I mean, locally, there's not a lot of people you can bounce these ideas off of or have in-depth conversations.
No.
So that's one of the things I personally have enjoyed a lot with all the guests, and I'm sure it's helped. I know it's helped a lot of people because I get a lot of emails. So that's always the awesome thing about that. Do you regret not buying sooner at any point with how much land prices went up in 6 years?
Absolutely.
Would you say that's one of the biggest regrets of like, I should have just bought that and that one?
It's a very big regret. But again, that's why I said, like, getting attached to specific properties is not, if you're doing it from an investment standpoint, don't get attached. I mean, look for the value, look for ways that you can force appreciation. I so much wish I would have done it 10 years ago and probably been on property 4, property 5 by now. But what I was, I think, most fearful of is being caught with my pants down, into a couple properties and something really good comes up and, I don't have the dry powder to act on it. Like that was always my biggest fear.
That same thing. Even when I bought my first farm, I was like, man, well, what if, farm ABCD comes available, it might be. And then it's just like, my dad's like, they're probably not going to. Like, I don't know what you're waiting for. And it's like, well, that's good advice. You've seen many more decades than me. So let's get rocking.
I think they may never become available. They may never be available at a price you can afford. And if they do, good Lord will work it out maybe, and you'll figure a way. You'll find a way to make things happen and put it together. And that's honestly the way I feel about it. If I'm meant to get into certain properties, I'll find a way to make it work.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I hope you guys enjoyed this. My name is Jake Hofer, and I'm a real estate agent out of the state of Illinois, and it's my goal to help 100 people buy their first farm. Been doing that with the Land Podcast and clips like this every single Thursday and Saturday that are released here on the channel. And to be one of those 100 people, all you have to do is, if you're in the state of Illinois and I can help you, I'd be happy to do so. Number 2, if you want to get connected with someone that can help you, reach out and I'll be happy to get you in contact with an agent that I would personally do business with. And the last one is, if you just simply learn something from the content we're putting out, or you get inspired to take action, I want to know, get you out of that spreadsheet. I'm on a mission to help 100 people. Until next time, see you.